And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Thursday, January 25th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. But before I get into that, as always, as we start off here, to tip or donate, get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So, with that, let's get into what we will discuss today. So we'll start off the show by talking about major news from last night. Jim Harbaugh will be accepting the LA Chargers job, so he will be their next head coach. So we'll get into that to start off the show. Then in the second part of the show, I'll talk about some moves regarding some other coaches, defensive coordinators more specifically. Some parted ways, some went to other places. So we'll get into that in the second part of the show. Then in the third part of the show, so a couple things. We'll talk about the status of Deebo Samuel because there was an update there. He didn't practice yesterday, but he is feeling better. So we'll get into that. We'll talk about the importance of Deebo Samuel as a player going into the NFC Championship game and just in general for the 49ers. So more NFC Championship talk. And then in the final part of the show, we'll talk about the Chiefs as they are, in that conversation, and they are really on the doorstep of, being that next, dynasty here in the NFL. And we'll discuss that. I know a lot of people, hearing that are thrilled because, everywhere I look on social media, I mean, it's the amount of Lamar Jackson edits that I've seen on TikTok where it's just like it's going to be, him saving America from a Taylor Swift Super Bowl. It's unbelievable. And it's just crazy how when, Mahomes first started, for the Chiefs, we didn't hear about this. Now it's just 6 years later, it's enough of him. Let's give somebody else a chance, So we'll get into all that in the final part of the show. But let's start off now by talking about Jim Harbaugh. So he is accepting the Chargers job. And I know earlier in the day, I remember my friend sent a text saying that he declined the second interview with the Falcons. So I was like, okay, looks like a decision is coming for Harbaugh. And then sure enough, I checked Instagram, and I think it was Bleacher Report. I saw they posted it that he is indeed going to be going to the Chargers. He's going to be their next head coach, and I like the hire a lot. I like it a lot. And it's crazy because the last time he coached in the NFL, I was a freshman in high school. Now I'm pretty much a year and a half, 2 years removed from college, which is unbelievable. It's been a long time. But you know what? This, I think, was the best place for him to go because of what they have, on the roster. This is a team that underperformed in 2023, after making the playoffs last year. And, of course, they had that horrendous, collapse against the Jaguars when they were up 27-0. And then the Jags came back, and they ended up winning. The Jags ended up winning 31-30, and that should have been the end of Brandon Staley. But we had to endure another, first half of the season with him, and then the Chargers finally got rid of him after the 63, right, the 63-21 loss to the Raiders, where they just gave up on him. But now they're bringing in a coach that he knows that he's played in some pretty big games in the NFL, and he built the 49ers back up into one of the best teams in the NFL. And obviously the last year he coached for the 49ers, that that's kind of what led to him departing, but which we'll get into. But his first season, it was 2011. You had Alex Smith as the quarterback. And it didn't look like Alex Smith was going to be anything. And then, Jim Harbaugh stepped in, and the 49ers, went to the NFC Championship game where they did lose to the New York Giants. But, they did that. Then a year later, they get to the Super Bowl, but now with Colin Kaepernick as the quarterback because Alex Smith got hurt that season. And then the following season, they made it to the NFC Championship game again, and that's when they lost. That was one of the best playoff games I've ever watched. The Seahawks 49ers game where Richard Sherman picked it off in the end zone, and then you had the Michael Crabtree interview at the end with Aaron Andrews of Fox, which actually that was the 10-year anniversary just passed, which is like unbelievable how long ago that was. But yeah, so he built the 49ers back up. Now, because I wanted to look into what the reason was for him leaving, because it's been a while. And it was basically just a power struggle with the general manager at the time for the 49ers. That's why they parted ways, and he ended up going to Michigan. But yeah, I mean, the 49ers, they weren't a good team, and then he came in and he took it over, and they were a very good team, for that 3-year period. And then also the other thing too is I forgot to mention, let's not forget, the year, I think it was the year before he took over, where that infamous interview by Mike Singletary when he was the head coach of the Niners, and he was talking about Vernon Davis and his effort, and he was saying I cannot work with him, and all that, and then a year later, Vernon Davis catches that basically the game-winning touchdown against the Saints in the divisional round a year later, and he was like so emotional on the sidelines. That was something else I wanted to mention too, because that was a good moment for him. That was a really good 49ers team. I mean, Vernon Davis, Crabtree. They got Anquan Bolden. Well, I think they got Anquan Bolden in 2013. Who else did they have? They had Frank Gore, of course. I mean, that defense was really good too. I mean, you had Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman, Justin Smith, Aldon Smith. I mean, that was a really good 49ers team as well. But he did listen. They didn't win a Super Bowl, but, he built the 49ers up. But then it was just like that final year where things kind of fell off. The 49ers kind of underperformed, and then eventually that led to him leaving to go to Michigan. And listen, it wasn't good in the beginning at Michigan, as I was listening to First Take, and they were talking about it. But listen, he built Michigan back up. And, they ended up winning the national championship. Now, of course, there was a lot of drama this year with the whole scandal and things like that. But, listen, Michigan won the national championship, and now he wants to win a Super Bowl. And going to the Chargers now, that's a good spot for him. Now, it's going to be different, and it's been a long time since he's coached in the NFL. So there could be a little bit of growing pains, to kind of get back to, get used to, being a coach in the NFL. You can't. It's not like he's going to step in and there's going to be, a Super Bowl right off the bat. I don't think that's going to happen in his first season. But even though it's like too soon to tell, but I expect this team with Harbaugh to make the playoffs, because they have a good roster. Now the other thing too is their cap situation. There's a lot of players that could, maybe be gone. Austin Eckler, his future, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. I mean, Mike Williams, obviously, he tore his ACL earlier in the season, so we'll see what happens there. Then you got guys on defense getting older, like Joey Bosa, like Khalil Mack. There's some work that needs to be done here in the offseason, but they got the quarterback. You got Justin Herbert. And I think now with Harbaugh, this team's going to be good. This team should be good. And if it's not, then that's, the Chargers are going to continue to charger, as, people say, or Chargers are chargering. But I think this should pan out. I'm just, but you also got to think about, how it ended in San Francisco, because it wasn't pretty that last season, but I think he's inherited a good roster, and you just got to continue to improve it. Particularly, the defensive side of the ball needs work, because the Chargers defense was not good in 2023. If you can get most of your weapons back, and you get a healthy Justin Herbert, this team is going to put up points, but you need a defense that can support that. And Harbaugh coached a very good defense in San Francisco, and the defense that he just won the national championship with in Michigan. So now he's going to be tasked with fixing that defense, and taking Justin Herbert to that next level. Because the other thing, too, we talk about Mahomes all the time and Josh Allen and Joe Burrow and obviously now Lamar Jackson with the season he's had. Justin Herbert, listen, talent-wise, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. But, all these guys have won playoff games. And, Mahomes and Burrow, they played in the Super Bowl. Justin Herbert's got to, now get over that hump, win a playoff game, and then get put into that conversation as well. Because, when he's on, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He is, But right now, of the quarterbacks I just named, he's the only one really that hasn't won a playoff game yet. So, we'll see. But this is a step in the right direction. I like this hire a lot, and we'll see what happens. But it's he's stepping into now you got a tough division, with the Chiefs. But listen, the Chargers, they've beaten the Chiefs before. It's been a little bit, but with Herbert they have done that. So I think the Chargers are going to give the Chiefs a tough time. And of course you still got Sean Payton in Denver. We'll see what they do next year at the quarterback spot. Antonio Pierce, of course, is coming back as the Raiders head coach. We talked about that early in the week, being named the full-time coach now. So this division is loaded when it comes to the head coaches. Well, in terms of recognition, Antonio Pierce is going into his first full season as a head coach. But you've seen Sean Payton, who won a Super Bowl, Andy Reid, the Super Bowls he's won now with the Chiefs. Harbaugh, obviously, coming off of a national championship with Michigan and making a Super Bowl. And, the Super Bowl he lost was to his brother, John Harbaugh. And they came very close to winning that. That was one of the better Super Bowls of the 2010s. When the lights went out and then, the Niners almost came back. I think is the Super Bowl next year, I think, is in New Orleans. And that was where that Super Bowl took place. So maybe the NFL scriptwriters say, hey, Harbaugh's first season, maybe he goes back to the scene of the crime and he wins the Super Bowl for the Chargers in 2024 in New Orleans with the Super Bowl that he lost to his brother. We'll see. They do play each other next year. Obviously the schedule hasn't come out yet, but at least who's playing who next year. The Chargers and the Ravens will play each other. So, that's something to look forward to. But, let me know what you guys think about this hire. Like I said, this is a smart move by the Chargers, but, now we got to just see how Harbaugh executes and, how this ends up going. Because, obviously if the Chargers go out and they have a horrific season and, Herbert takes a step back, it's not going to look good. But I think they'll find success there because Harbaugh has won in the NFL. Now, again, he hasn't won a Super Bowl, but listen, he got a team to 3 straight NFC championship games. So, and that did happen a long time ago. And, he just coming off of a national championship with Michigan as well. So, anything is better than Brandon Staley. And Harbaugh is much better than Brandon Staley, even without ever coaching a game for the Chargers yet. So, again, let me know what you guys think about this hire. So, with that, we're going to take our first break of the show. And then when we come back, we're going to discuss some other coaching change updates, particularly with defensive coordinators, because there were some moves regarding defensive coordinators. We'll get into that. And that'll be the second part of the show. So, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.